Congratulations on your seat in the Knesset, the Israeli parliament.
Thank you.
What are your plans?
The unity of the people in my country is a huge passion for me. That's first and foremost. Secondly, minorities in terms of the Arab sector in Israel, the Arab society. I speak Arabic. I have lived in an Arab country for 3 years as a senior diplomat. I feel that my Zionism, my love for my country, one of the main expressions thereof is the fact that all people within the country will be living as one. And now that we've achieved something amazing, game-changing, regionally, the Abraham Accords, it almost seems as if the pressure is off of countries like Egypt, Jordan, and so on, because there's a role model. It shows that it is in fact possible to live together.
You were stationed in Egypt. You were there for several years. You stated you speak fluent Arabic. It was a cold peace. It is not where we are today between the Emiratis and the Israelis, and the same thing with the Bahrainis. Why would that change?
First of all, I was there for 3 whole years as an Israeli, a Jewish woman, not yet married at the time, so I was more or less the epitome of all evil. It was eye-opening for me, living, breathing, smelling, touching the people makes you understand something that you cannot understand from even studying books or a language. So on the one hand, there was no warm peace, but on the other hand, it took all the weight against all of the other Arab countries. It will take time. Why will it take time? Because for decades, Egypt has taught its people that Israel is the enemy. This has not changed. The people, the actual nation, the Egyptian amazing nation, it didn't trickle down. They didn't feel it. The books did not mirror this kind of an agreement. And the antagonism was and remains quite strong against Israel.
Let's look inward. Lud, you lived there a long time. It's a city of immense poverty. It's a mixed city. Looking at Israel in terms of Lud as a prototype, how did you feel that you were able to help shape change there?
Lod is a city which is very close to my heart. My husband and I and our children live there. It is in fact a city which knows a lot of poverty throughout the years. Really very many immigrants have arrived, Russians, Ethiopians, Moroccans. It is a mixed city, both Arab and Jewish and Christian. There's a Christian minority there as well. Very, very important for the Christian world in terms of the Greek Orthodox Church in which St. George is buried.
President Shimon Peres very much stood for unity of all Israelis. You worked with him, you helped to advise him, you witnessed so many things. What is the one thing that you walked away from that experience in your lifetime that you think back and say that had a tremendous mark on what I'm doing today?
So I think it's a little bit strange to me always to say that I advised Shimon Peres. It's almost like saying he knew so much about everything. He was an autodidact and he was almost advising me on everything in life rather than the opposite. But I did have the privilege of serving as his advisor in the presidency. I would say that nothing but nothing is impossible. That was his mantra.
You were a deputy director for the Federation of Local Governments, and then you also went on and you created your own consultancy firm, working with government officials both here in Israel and abroad. How do you see those things coming together?
I got to know the unbelievable myriad of people within this country and the processes of local governance, how it connects with the central government and so on. A true learning experience. Engines of growth and sustainable engines of growth, allowing for employment opportunities, so on.
Give me an example.
So one beautiful example is in the Regional Council of El Batouf. El Batouf is a relatively unknown regional council, Arab, with 4 villages, 2 Bedouin villages and 2 non-Bedouin Muslim. Everybody in that municipality, all the inhabitants are Muslim. Socioeconomically, it is a rather poor place with low income for most of the inhabitants. One of the villages is an absolutely unbelievably beautiful place called Wadi Hammam. It is just under the Arbel mountain with a beautiful source of water, mountains, really a picturesque place that seriously very few people know. And one thing that I've worked on together with the leadership, the local leadership, together with the community, together with the Israeli Ministry of Tourism, together with the Israeli Ministry of Economy and so on, and philanthropists, is creating a sustainable source of income in that same village for the municipality and for the people themselves. In other words, creating a Bedouin souk, in other words, exporting, if you wish, the culture, the Bedouin culture, allowing local women to work in the place, creating a sort of ownership process.
Ruth, you know, as we are speaking on this program, we spoke earlier about the Palestinian elections. Here we are, never thought we'd be into a fourth election this time around, and Israel has some serious problems. There are issues of deep poverty despite the startup nation. There are issues still where women aren't where they should be, even in this democracy. If you had a short list, what would it be?
I want to begin with the fact that I absolutely love my country. I think that this is a safe haven for the Jewish peoplehood, and as such, it needs, in my humble opinion, to be a viable, sustainable, I would say compassionate safe haven for all the people within it. This is something that I've done before I came into the Knesset, something that I will continue doing inside the Israeli parliament. We have COVID throughout the world, poverty, we have small and medium-sized businesses closing. Every couple of meters there's a business closing, families, and you mentioned women. You know, I believe that people within themselves, and especially women, have a strength, an inner strength, a light. After all, we are mothers, we are nurturers. I'm not naive. I've spent 3 years in an Arab country with 100 million Egyptians, that not all of them wanted me there. There needs to be a leadership, a brave, courageous leadership. And I hope that this leadership will incorporate more women, that will allow us to expose our light, share our capabilities, bring our nurturing selves for the betterment of society. Not just words for me, this is my life.
You were in the Israeli army in intelligence.
Yes.
Do you miss those days?
Yes, it was also a stepping stone in my career and in my development in general. And I think that this, unfortunately, is still a strong and necessary inherent part of Israeli society, given the continued threat that exists for the state of Israel in the region and abroad. I particularly put my eyes currently on Iran, but not only.
You speak 5 languages, you have a master's from Harvard, and you raise 3 children. Many women would say, I can't juggle life as a wife, a mother, and a career. What do you say?
Well, I think you should ask my children that, if I'm doing a good job or not, but I'm loving every moment. I'm a multitasker. I'm trying to keep sane in between, especially now when Israel is showcasing its ability to lock down again and again. It's not an easy feat always.
Well, I've been happy to showcase you on this segment.
Thank you.
News needs trained journalists. The Media Line, the first American nonprofit news agency covering the Middle East, has mentored scores of students from prestigious American universities and around the globe. We are one of the best kept secrets. Universities are partners. Students receive credit. In order to bring you trusted news, we need support for our future journalists. Please make your tax-deductible gift today. Go to themedialine.org.